Welcome to Henderson Farms and Homestead. In this video, we're going to talk about canning carrots, chicken broth, and mushrooms. So the next time you see baby carrots on sale at the grocery store, pick some up. I usually wash them really good before I put them in a pan on the stove and bring them to a boil. And then once they start to boil, I will actually clean my jars really good, sterilize my jars, and we will put the carrots in the jars. Once we put all the carrots in the jars with a teaspoon of salt, canning salt, I'll top my jars off with some water. And then once I do that, then we'll top them off with lids and rings. You might notice in the background, I have a crock pot going, and on this particular day I was making rabbit tacos. So I was cooking my rabbits with some fajita seasoning, and we had tacos for supper that night. So my pressure canner has water in the bottom of it, and I've got that heating up on the stove. I'm just going to make sure there's not any air bubbles left in my jars. And we will wipe the tops of the jars really good, make sure there's not any salt or any debris on the top of the jars before we put the canning rings on. So my pressure canner probably will have about a third of the jars covered with water. You don't completely submerge your jars with water when you pressure can. And so I've got those. This was my last run, so I didn't have a full canner left. But I'll lock my lid on, and we will turn it up to where the valve has continuous steam coming out of it. I like to do it for about 5 minutes, and then once that steam is continuous, we'll put the weight on it for 10 pounds of pressure, and we'll let the gauge get up to 10 pounds of pressure, and we'll let these carrots cook for probably about 25 minutes since they're in quarts. So the carrots have been processing in the pressure cooker for about 25 minutes. So we'll turn the stove off, and that way the pressure can completely fall, so it's safe to open our pressure canner at that time, and we will take our carrots out. We're so excited about having all these carrots. It's one of our favorite things to eat when we have a roast, or along with pork chops and green beans. And we'll just put them, saute them with a little bit of butter and brown sugar, and they are so good to eat. So I noticed as I was taking my jars out, one of them was missing a whole lot of water in the top. You can actually see it just below the bevel on the jar. I was kind of afraid my jar maybe had broke, but actually it may have just seeped out. Everything looked fine and it had sealed well. So let's talk bone broth. It doesn't matter what kind of bones, beef, chicken. In this case, I actually used turkey bones that I had saved from a Christmas party at work that they were throwing away. And I know they all thought I was crazy when I started hollering and screaming not to throw the carcasses away. But I brought them home and froze them, and I've put them in my slow cooker and added carrots and celery and onions, a little bit of garlic, and peppercorns, and then I just added some thyme and some rosemary that I had, as well as a couple bay leaves. When making broth, I actually put the skins of the garlic and the onion in. We'll eventually strain it, and it actually has health benefits as well. Once you have everything in the slow cooker, you can just top it off with water. I also put a splash of white vinegar in there because it helps break down the bone marrow and makes it a little healthier when you have all the bone broke down in your broth. Sorry, as you can see, I have dogs that they'll let themselves in and out, so I had to go shut the door so it doesn't get cold in the house. So we'll put the lid on that and check on it in just a little while. In the meantime, as that is cooking, Waylon asked if there was any way he could be on the homestead. And he asked me if he could vacuum, if I would video him vacuuming so he could be on here. So here he is helping Mimi out. It's looking good and the house smells absolutely amazing. So we'll get to it on day 2. So now I'm taking cheesecloth and putting it in my strainer, and I'm going to strain the broth from all the bones and any kind of gristle or all the vegetables and stuff like that. So we'll just do that real quick. After we do that, and I didn't put it on there because it was actually in the middle of the night, once we get it in the container, it needs to cool off, which thank goodness it's cool enough outside, but it needs to cool off, and then it needs to either be refrigerated, or I left mine sitting outside all night, because you want the grease or the fat to settle on the top and harden so you can take it off. And I didn't include that in the video, and I'm really sorry about that, but it was overnight and 3 o'clock in the morning. So but we'll continue to strain this off and move it into a different pan, and we'll put it outside, and we'll be ready to can it as quick as that's done. As I was editing the video, I realized that I didn't have the process where I actually put the broth in the jars to can it as well. But as I explained already, once your broth cools off and you're able to take the grease off the top of it, then you can go ahead and reheat it. I just bring mine to a boil real quick so that my jars, when I put it in the canner, the liquid is hot inside the jars, because my canner's hot and I don't want to risk the jars breaking. But go ahead and put it in your jars. I also put a teaspoon of canning salt in those. When I wipe the lids, anytime I'm doing meat or broth, I use just a little bit of white vinegar, and that way it makes sure that it's good and clean, and that the lids will actually seal really well. So I did that at 10 pounds of pressure for 25 minutes, and now we have chicken broth. And it's very satisfying to know that when there's recall after recall of chicken broth, or recently carrots, that, you know, I have a safe food that my family can eat. then finally to the mushrooms. You can use any kind of mushrooms you like. We just prefer just to do the white mushrooms. But as with the carrots, probably more so, wash your mushrooms really, really good. Once you wash them, I just let them, drain in a strainer. And then this time I've got enough that I'm going to do some slices and some chunks, so we can put them in spaghetti sauce, or I can put them in a roast, or we can put them on pizza, or whatever we want to do. But so you'll chunk them or slice them, and we'll be ready to cook them in a few minutes. So once you've prepared your mushrooms, sliced or chunked, you can actually even do them whole. You will put them in a pan and put them on the stovetop for about 5 minutes. Bring them to a boil. Let them simmer for a few minutes. First of all, it does reduce the size of them, and then we will bring them over and put them in the jars. I've elected to use pints this time, so when I put them in my pints, I'll also put a half a teaspoon of canning salt in there. I will try to fill up the jars as much as I can with the actual mushrooms before I top it off with the water. But mushrooms shrink up so much, so oftentimes it doesn't look like there's as many as you put in the jars when you take them back out of the canner. So the mushrooms, when you can those, they take about 45 minutes as opposed to the 25 minutes that we did the broth and the carrots on. So 10 pounds of pressure at 45 minutes, and then they'll be good to go as well. So now that Christmas is over with and the decorations are put up, when I remember, I try to decorate above my kitchen for the different months. So Valentine's is right around the corner, I Love You Day, and so I'm hanging up my little ornaments for Valentine's Day. I have St. Patrick's Day that will be ready to go as quick as Valentine's Day is over with. So just to add a little bit of color, the grandbabies enjoy them, and Jeff enjoys hitting his head on them. So, but I do like having some decorations up. So as you enjoy the birds for just a minute, I just want to say thank you, everybody that has commented and liked, shared my videos. As I said, this is new to me. I am not a content, well, I guess I am a content creator now, but it's just a lifestyle change of carrying a camera around every time you turn around. I didn't have it the other day when the lambs were being silly, and so it's very difficult. I'm loving it. I love to share with you guys, and if there's anything you want in particular, we'll work on doing some goat milk soap and stuff in the near future. I want to do some vanilla, but again, thank you so much, and just understand I have content. It's taken a long time to edit videos and stuff like that. So we love you. Be safe and be blessed.